Hi guys, thanks for joining us here today. My name is Devon Thomatos. I'm an account executive over at Searchmetrics, and joined with me today is Shoby Mohanlal. Shoby is one of my colleagues at Searchmetrics, also an account executive. And Shoby, I believe you used to be a PPC guru over at Marin. Do you want to give us a bit of insight into that?
Thank you, Devon. Thank you very much. Hi, guys. My name is Shoby Mohanlal. I am an account executive at Searchmetrics here in the UK office. As Devon mentioned, my background has predominantly been in paid search, having worked, within an agency, with client side, and for a SaaS platform, previously with Marin Software, and have jumped over to the SEO side of digital marketing. And it's definitely something that's interesting as well, having a whole holistic view of how search engine marketing operates and how both the channels kind of work together and go hand in hand.
Excellent. And I believe today we're going to be optimizing new and existing content, sort of just to improve overall domain performance. And you're going to be running us through that.
That's right, exactly. So what we're trying to do here is essentially improving the existing content or looking at new content that users can begin to start creating to help improve their overall domain performance. Because as of recent, obviously not in recent times, but just overall, throughout the whole SEO process, we look at improving content as that is what users are looking for. So what we're trying to do is help understand exactly where the gaps are within the analysis that we're conducting, and also trying to find out exactly the type of content that we need to be creating for the users so that we can ensure to increase the overall traffic.
100%. And I believe we're going to be looking at Boohoo today, purely because they took a massive knock with the latest core update. Well, we're assuming it's the core update, but they took quite a gigantic dip from what we can see, and you'll be sharing that shortly. Just so that everyone joining in knows that for those of you who do not have access to our platform, if you want access and you want to be able to get your content teams to create their own briefs and run through the same process we're about to run through, feel free to reach out to us at any point and we'll get you set up with that. Shoby, I believe I'm just going to hand over to you now, let you share screen and let us run through sort of your analysis of Boohoo and sort of the type of content that they can create to get themselves back on track.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Devon. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Right. Can you guys see my screen? I believe it's loading.
Yes.
Brilliant. Cool. Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Devon. So today, as Devon mentioned, we're going to be running through boohoo.com because as of recent, I think could be due to the new update, it looks like they've taken a bit of a hit in terms of their overall domain performance. So if I begin to scroll down, I know that in the previous webinar, Devon, you've been through the visibility section of the platform, right?
Yes, I have.
Brilliant, cool. Okay, so as Devon mentioned, it looks like as if though they have taken a big decline in the recent weeks. So I'm just bringing in the Google updates to overlay this with the visibility chart to understand exactly what is going on here. And we can see it kind of correlates with the latest update, the May 2020 core update that may have affected the overall domain performance. Now, obviously, as everyone knows, the May core update was a big update, kind of similar to the EAT update, where it's looking at expertise, authority, and trust as the key indicators of understanding how a domain could be affected. Okay, so we're going to just jump into the content gap analysis. So I'm just going to run through the usual workflow that we tend to go through when we are conducting a content gap analysis, trying to find opportunities and identifying key analysis that we find within Searchmetrics to understand exactly the type of content we should be creating, or whether it should be new content that we should be creating based on the analysis that we're going to be conducting. So we're going to start with top performing URLs. So what we're looking at here is essentially the overall domain, understanding exactly what the top performing URLs are, finding out if there are any potentials within this particular domain where we can start to help improve, or maybe there might be particular gaps where we need to create a completely new piece of content. So I'm just going to run you through just an overview on the typical analysis that we tend to go through, or the process that we tend to run through. And we can see key metrics here for boohoo.com. And we're going to start with URL count. What we can see essentially is we are focusing on trying to help you understand what your URL count is versus the average top 10 competitors. So we go ahead and find who the top 10 competitors are, conducting a domain-to-domain comparison and giving you an understanding of exactly where you stand against the average top 10 competitors, as noted here. So it's nearly nearly double the amount when comparing against the average top 10 competitors. As we can see here, the organic keyword count, there's a huge difference here, which just showcases that there is a lot of opportunity for us to help improve the overall organic keyword count for this particular domain. Just under 300,000 organic keyword count here versus the average top 10, who are sitting at 422,000. Now, if we look at the traffic index potential, this is key in helping us understand how much more opportunity and potential there is to help improve the overall performance of the domain, but not only that, to generate more traffic. Because essentially what everyone is trying to do or trying to achieve is essentially try and get as much traffic to the domain, but not only just traffic, but not just any traffic, but quality traffic. So what we can see here essentially is the amount of traffic that is currently being generated, the amount of assumed traffic that's being generated. The figure here, 30.37 million, is essentially, if we assume that everything was ranking in first position, how much traffic would you be generating? And this
so we can clarify on that, Shoby, sorry. So that 30.37 million is basically telling us that if we took all of our keywords and every single one of our keywords is ranked in first position, that's how much traffic we would be getting.
That is correct, exactly.
Okay.
But the key metric, so yeah, exactly, that's a benchmark to use. But the key metric we want to understand and look at is the delta traffic index potential, which is here, which showcases the difference between where we are and where we could be, right? So it obviously shows there's just under 24 million traffic that we could be generating to the domain. So obviously there's a huge potential here, and that is exactly what we're trying to find, exactly understanding on how we can optimize to help generate this much more traffic. The traffic value essentially means that how much it would cost for you to generate the amount of traffic you're already generating. So for the 6.53 million traffic that's already generated, this is how much it would cost us if we were to start bidding on those particular search terms. And to generate...
How are we... Sorry to keep cutting you off the show, but how are we exactly getting to that number? I mean, are we taking the average cost of the CPC? Are we just taking the higher CPC? How do we get to the number of, how much is that, 19.26 million?
No, that's a great question. So essentially what we're doing is we're pulling in the average CPC from Google AdWords directly, and then we're multiplying this with the traffic index to understand exactly what the full traffic value will be. Okay, so it gives us a good indication. As an SEO, you're probably thinking, I don't necessarily need to know about paid search and how much it's going to cost me, because obviously there's sometimes segregation between the two departments. We're starting to see a bit of change where the two departments are now starting to work together. So this gives us the competitive advantage for SEOs, because now what we're able to see and understand is that if there are expensive search terms or expensive URLs that we're currently bidding on, we could maybe start to shift that focus to SEO so that we can cut costs and maybe shift budget over to where it wouldn't be costing us too much. Okay. So if I then begin to... Cool. So if I begin to scroll down, I'll touch base on this particular metric shortly as we go through this graph here. So what we're looking at here is essentially understanding how our domain is doing and how all our URL pages are performing. So the horizontal axis just shows us exactly the traffic that's being generated. The vertical axis just shows us the delta traffic index potential, how much more potential there is. So if we look at the top left-hand corner, it shows us these pages. So if I select one, so log into your account, if I just choose, let's just say boots, women's boots, we can see that it isn't generating much traffic, right? But there is a huge amount of potential. So we're pulling the data to understand what the selected URL is, looking at what the title is, and then giving you a breakdown of how much traffic you're generating, but more importantly, how much potential there is. So you can then begin to prioritize, maybe based on seasonality or priority internally based on your business priorities, on understanding where you should prioritize, focusing on specific content, on whether you should be focusing on URLs that aren't generating much traffic but have a huge potential, or if we go to the other side, we can see URLs that are generating high amounts of traffic. But not only that, I mean, which is good and positive news, but also shows us that there is so much more potential to help improve this even further. So for wedding guest dresses, you can see that it is the highest generating URL page for boohoo.com. And we can also see and identify that there is still a huge amount of potential to help improve this even further. Okay, so the best way to try and analyze and understand this is focusing on those pages that have a huge amount of potential. Obviously, pages here would indicate that it's generating a low amount of traffic and has a low potential. So maybe that priority, for example, going out dresses may not be a high priority because there isn't much more potential based on how much traffic we're already generating for that page. Right. So we want to focus on the sweet spots that are on the top left-hand corner and the top right-hand corner. But as we can see, what we're looking at here, just the line above 162,000 traffic index potential, that is the focus of the pages that you may want to prioritize. Right. And all these little tabs here are essentially different pivots on how we can look at it from a different angle on how how our domain is performing and how each of these pages are performing. So if I go to traffic index versus traffic value, this is where the PPC team can actually benefit from, because it helps us understand again how much traffic is being generated here, and then the traffic value. So essentially how expensive these pages are to actually bid on. So now if we look at the top right hand corner, we can see it's generating the most amount of traffic. However, it has the highest traffic value. So we know if we're going to start bidding on terms around wedding guest dresses, for example, we know that it's going to be an expensive term to start bidding on. So maybe we can start focusing on optimizing the existing page through SEO. And then what we can also do is also look at the traffic value potential. That's the delta traffic index potential. So as the traffic value potential increases, how much more potential would the value of the traffic index potential start to increase? So it gives us a good indication of, first of all, understanding what should we be prioritizing based on how expensive particular pages are. So this also gives this helps build a bridge between SEO and PPC, helping us understand exactly, helping each department understand what the focus should be. Because if you are currently bidding on expensive search terms and the SEO team is also trying to optimize those pages organically, obviously there's going to be a lot of time and money spent trying to just improve that through two different channels. Instead of having to bid on expensive search terms, they can then start to focus on the organic channel and start optimizing those pages there for free. So essentially, instead of paying, you're going to now focus on organic. traffic.
I believe that another way in which teams are currently utilizing this graph to work together, sort of the PPC and the SEO side, is sort of, from what I've seen, is that if an SEO team is looking to bump up the amount of traffic on a poor performing web page, so a page that isn't performing well but has an abundance of delta traffic index potential, what they then do is they find which page they're going to work on or which URL they're going to work on, see that URL is performing poorly. They then go and tell their PPC team to go pump as much into that page as they can, so they can start getting traffic that way. Because essentially SEO isn't, turnkey. It takes a while to get up and going. So what they do is they utilize the PPC team to sort of build up that traffic while they're working on the SEO in the back. So that's another great way to utilize this page, as far as I understand, Shobs.
That's exactly spot on. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to repeat exactly what you said, but I can't say it any better than you just explained that. But that's spot on. So if we see that there are pages that aren't generating much traffic, but we can see that it isn't as expensive, then we can start to push more traffic through the paid search channel. So that's where we've utilized these graphs in helping us understand where each team can start to prioritize their focus on. Cool. So, but in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this particular pivot and helping us understand exactly where the actual highest potentials are. So we can see a breakdown of the top performing URLs, the high potential URLs, and the URLs with high traffic value potential as well. So looking at top performing URLs, just quickly, we can see how many ranking keywords there are. There's a breakdown of how much traffic you're generating, the current position, and the search terms, obviously, that are actually ranking. You can see the traffic value, and then the search volume as well, which gives us a good indication of understanding exactly, what the potential is out there, whether it's a search term that has a high volume as well. And we can see the CPC as well. So just giving a breakdown, and what we can see here essentially is obviously it's going to be the branded terms are going to be in the top position, generating the most amount of traffic, which obviously would be which is obvious here. If we start to scroll down, we can see many different URLs. But what I want to see and focus on, I mean, it's great to understand the top performing URLs, of course, but you want to see where the potential is, because you want to start to generate more traffic, helping improve the overall domain visibility. So if I go into high potential URLs, what essentially the platform is doing for you is prioritizing based on the highest potential URLs. And what we're doing essentially is this loads up. What we can see here are all the list of URLs with the highest potential. So this is sorted by the delta traffic index potential, essentially the difference between where you are and essentially where you could be. So this is a great way to prioritize your particular pages. So just looking at all the high potential URLs, it looks like there's a lot of focus around women's products. So I'm just going to pick one at random, unless you see something, Devon, that might be a good example. Should we just use women's shoes?
Yeah, women's shoes is looking good.
To have the highest potential. Right. So let's go into that particular URL. So what we've done here is essentially identified the URL with the highest potential. Now let's deep dive into this particular URL or this particular landing page and understand exactly how this is performing. And this is essentially where we start to really dive in to your high potential URL. So once you've identified it, then you want to start to do some analysis on this. Understand exactly how are you stacking up for this particular landing page up against the competitors that are ranking for exactly the same landing page. So for women's shoes, for example. So again, this is another breakdown of understanding exactly how many organic keywords you're ranking for versus your average top 10 competitors. So it gives you a good benchmark of understanding where you need to be, right, against the top 10. Then the search volume, helping us understand how much more potential we could be achieving. And then the URL traffic index potential, just showcasing again the breakdown of how much traffic is being generated versus the delta traffic index potential, how much more there is that we could be generating for this particular landing page. But what's more important is helping us understand the share of traffic that this particular landing page is generating. So looking at the overall domain, we can see that this is generating 0.4% of the overall traffic that's being generated into this particular domain. So it gives us a good understanding that, okay, this page may not be generating much traffic, which we already have identified, but it also helps us understand that, okay, maybe there is now more room to help improve the overall performance. So if I scroll down, what we're essentially seeing here and looking at is how we're stacking up against the average top 10 competitors. So we're looking at the platform. What the platform is doing is looking at all the domains that have women's shoes, or that have a landing page for women's shoes, and we're doing a head-to-head comparison. Right. So you're probably thinking, okay, against the average top 10 competitors, it looks like we're, generating much more traffic. Obviously, we have a just slightly lower search volume, but we're ranking for just 500, 600. I mean, what's my maths wrong? There's just under 700 less less ranking keywords. Now, if I pull this pop-up out, what I can then start to see is who the average top 10 competitors are and who the platform is comparing boohoo.com to. So what we can see here essentially is you can see the URLs that we're comparing against. So this is helping you save time from having to go into Google, search for women's shoes, and then find out who's actually ranking for that particular search term. Instead, we're doing that legwork for you, and we are showcasing all the domains that are ranking for this for women's shoes, for example. So if we want to, what we can then do is just compare, let's just say, for example, against ASOS, how do we stack up, right? So if I just zoom out, what we can see here, essentially, obviously, we have more ranking keywords than ASOS. However, even though we have more ranking keywords than ASOS, we aren't really generating anywhere near the amount of traffic that ASOS are generating. And then you can see the traffic value and their average position. So this obviously gives us a good indication of understanding against ASOS, who essentially sell similar clothes. Would you say so, Devon? So it's essentially kind of
it's pretty similar, yeah. It's a very good competitor to analyze. Yeah, especially seeing that, I don't know if you noticed this, Shoby, but when I was looking at the big dip in Boohoo earlier today, actually yesterday when I looked at it, I noticed that whatever they lost in online visibility, ASOS actually scooped up. So if you compare the two on a visibility chart, you'll actually see the Boohoo group take a massive dip, but it actually replicates on the ASOS side in the opposite direction. So it looks like they just stole the traffic away.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you for pointing that out, Devon. And I guess this correlates with that as well, because it just showcases they are generating much more traffic now. And we're looking at the average for the last 30 days. And even better, that can help us further with our analysis is we can understand the seasonality. Understanding the seasonality flow, or when we can expect to see a spike in traffic, or when there's going to be a bit of a downtime. So for women's shoes, we can see that, from May throughout to August, September, October, even November, we can see there tends to be spikes in the amount of traffic or the amount of volume there is around this search term. So this gives us a good indication of understanding when we should prepare for a spike in traffic. So we can see January, February, obviously this is based on the last 12 months. And due to the current situation, you can see obviously the search volumes are going to be a lot lower because people have other priorities instead of buying, luxuries such as women's shoes, for example. But this helps us give us a good indication. Not only that, but it helps us prepare for when we can begin to optimize particular pages or create new pages and prepare for the spikes that are coming in that are coming probably later down the line around August, November time, even September. We could see a spike, which gives us a great indication of when it would best start optimizing. So if I then go back
at the moment, when I'm speaking to a lot of agencies at the moment, and what I'm finding out is that the content team actually doesn't take much look into the seasonality around URLs and keywords, topics, and things like that nature. They literally just know, okay, cool, we might have a bit of an uptick next month because that sometimes happens. So then they just write about it. They're not actually taking a deep dive into seasonality. And I think it's really underrated feature to have. It's just the seasonality because, it outlines your whole year essentially, and your whole content calendar should be around the seasonality of your site.
Oh, that's spot on, Devon. Thank you for that. Thank you for jumping in. No, that's actually interesting to know, because I'd have assumed that seasonality would be a key metric to actually focus on, so that we can then start, or just clients can start to then prioritize. But I understand from an agency side, majority of the time, clients are always telling you, right, this is what you guys need to be doing. This is when you should be pushing. When, as a matter of fact, what we try and help agencies or even enterprise clients do is giving you real life data, real analysis to help you and your clients, or even just enterprise clients, understand and prioritize for seasonality, because it's important to know when you're going to be able to capitalize on a large spike of traffic or search volume. Cool. So the great part of this great piece of great content we can see here is essentially, if we start to scroll down for this particular page, you can see all the ranking keywords, their current position. You can see all the related keywords to the main keywords that are ranking. And whoops, I don't know what's going on with my page here.
Could be that Virgin Internet you got going there, Shoby.
Yeah, I think it is. Sorry. Okay, we're back. Right, cool. Okay, sorry for that little blip. But okay, cool. So just going back, we can see all the ranking keywords for this particular page, all the related keywords as well. You give you a breakdown of exactly understanding the particular position, the traffic you're generating, and more importantly, exactly, again, the seasonality breakdown that Devon actually mentioned. Also, another key, two key metrics that we are able to showcase are, the best month versus the average, and what the next 3 months looks like. So we can see there's going to be a lot of increase in the amount of search volume and the amount of potential that there is in the coming months. So even in the next 3 months, you can see there's a lot of spike for women's shoes. So you can see here, this particular search sum, there's going to be a 13% increase in traffic or search volume for the next 3 months. So this not only helps us understand exactly where these keywords currently are, but also helps us prepare on understanding which keywords we should be optimizing within this particular page in order to capitalize on the increase in traffic and search volume. Okay, so whoops. Right after this, what we can then do is I'm just going to dive into the next section to understand competitors by URL. Now, as this loads up, essentially what we're doing is finding all the competitors that are out there that are essentially have the exact same landing page and selling women's shoes, and exactly showing you, the amount of shared keywords that you have against the competitor and how much traffic that they're generating. So it gives you a good picture of understanding exactly where you actually fit into this when comparing against your competitor. But not only that, but more importantly, the platform will help you understand who your true competitors are at for this particular landing page. Because at a top level, you can imagine you're going to have your main competitors, but as you start deep diving into each specific category or segment of your website, or or the product that you're selling, you'll start to find there are different competitors for different products. Now, for women's shoes, what we can see is here are the top 10 competitors. We can even look at top 25, top 50, even top 100. Now, the great thing about this as well is that not only do we report on just up to top 100, but we pull in 1,000 competitors that are ranking for women's shoes, or that have a web page for women's shoes. So essentially, we're giving you the direct competitor. We're doing a landing page analysis of understanding who our true competitors are. Because even for agencies, sometimes you might get clients telling you, right, these are my competitors, and these are the people that I want you to focus on. When, as a matter of fact, when we start deep diving into particular segments or categories of our website or particular URLs, we can then start to see, based on our data, that actually there are 1,000 competitors, and these are the main competitors, the top of the list that we need to be keeping an eye on. So you can even sort this by shared keywords, the competitor keywords, or average position, however you may please. But we're going to look at the relevant score, essentially looking at the keyword base, the keywords you share with your competitors, and your competitors' keyword bases as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to conduct a head-to-head comparison with ASOS, because I tend to, I'm not speaking from, I'm speaking kind of from my experience. I look at these as two retailers that I tend to go on when I'm doing online shopping. So I think this will be a great comparison. So what we're doing again is looking at a head-to-head comparison with ASOS, understanding exactly where we stand up against our competitors. So we can see the Euro organic keywords that we're ranking for versus our competitors. Even though we're ranking for more keywords, we aren't generating near enough the amount of traffic we should be generating, right? So stacking up against ASOS, we can see we're not generating anywhere near them. This search volume just showcases, how much volume there is for us to go and attain and achieve, and then the Euro traffic value potential as well. So if I scroll down, we've already seen this particular chart. Obviously, we can see ASOS are beating us on nearly every front. We may have high ranking keywords and unique keyword counts, but ultimately they are the winners here simply because they're generating much more traffic with a higher average position. But more importantly, what I want to understand and see are where the gaps are, right? So we're going to look at the keyword overlap, looking at the Euro comparison. So this bubble here represents boohooman.com and their keyword universe. This bubble here, the yellow bubble, represents ASOS keyword universe. And the overlap here just showcases the amount of shared keywords there are. Obviously, here on the right, competitive traffic index just showcases how much traffic they're generating versus Boohooman for this particular URL. Right, so if we then scroll down, what we can then begin to see is a head-to-head comparison based on shared keywords, exactly understanding the keywords that we're both ranking for, we're competing for, and exactly where we stand up against our competitors. So then again, this gives us a good indication of understanding where we can start to optimize, where we need to shift our focus to. If there's any specific keywords that, where we may have a low position, and it tends to be that we, a lot of Boohooman's keywords tends to be ranking on the bottom half of the first page or on the second page, whereas ASOS have a good position and they've got a good strength in terms of the amount of traffic that they're generating, right? Which is good analysis and understanding. But what I want to see and what I want to understand is, the gaps, the unique keywords that ASOS are ranking for that we are currently not ranking for. Right, so this is helping us understand the content gap analysis, exactly finding opportunities for keywords that ASOS are ranking for that we are not ranking for. So obviously, a lot of their unique keywords are going to be around branded terms. So you can see ASOS shoes, ASOS silver shoes, and a lot of these search terms tend to have ASOS branded term within the search term itself. But what we want to try and find are those keywords that are generic keywords that we should be ranking for. So what we can do, we can start to see black shoes for women. You can see black shoes again here. You can see shoes and sandals, which shows us a great understanding of knowing, what the search volume is behind this particular keyword. So, Devon, do you have any input on which keyword I should go ahead and pick out?
I would just go for something generic that has a good search volume. So something like black shoes. That one should do quite well. Just have a look at that. And just so that I understand quite correctly, like what you're doing now, all of the research that you've done to this stage, generally SEOs would do for their content team, right? So this is like the process. They would go and they'd look for these keywords and they'd sort of pass it along. But the workflow you've sort of followed now, you could just sort of teach a content team to do themselves, sort of saving that time on the SEO team.
That's spot on. So, I mean, obviously this is a little bit more sped up and we're just running through it quickly. But yes, that is correct. This is essentially the workflow that we tend to do where we try and conduct a content gap analysis of understanding exactly how our domain is performing, how all our URLs that we're ranking for are performing versus our competitors, then identifying a competitor to compare ourselves against. It could be, any of the leaders that are in the top 10 positions. And then we are trying to do a head-to-head comparison then to find any keywords or any gaps that we are currently seeing in our content, right? So trying to identify keywords that we may not be ranking for that our competitors may be, because essentially what SEO is, we're trying, we're stealing ideas from our competitors. We're trying to find out exactly why the top ranking domain is in that position. for a particular URL, and we want to take ideas from it. What are they doing exactly? What kind of keywords are they ranking for? Because we want to know this type of information, because we want to then start creating and optimizing our content to start ranking in top positions to then generate much more traffic. And in turn, this will help improve the overall visibility of your domain.
Excellent.
Okay, so cool. So I'm going to use Black Shoes just as an example. And what we're going to do now is I've identified my keyword that I am not ranking for, that has a high search volume that ASOS is ranking for. Now I need to ensure that I am going to be creating content around this. So I'm just going to choose just a random, let me just choose asos.com. But instead we're going to create a new page. If we are, obviously this is a webinar for existing content as well. But in this instance, what I'm going to do is just select for new page, and then within that section, we can then focus on how to edit existing content as well. So I'm now going to go into save and edit brief. Once I've identified the gaps, obviously I'm not ranking for Black Shoes, so I want to start ranking for these Black Shoes search term. And what we're going to do is, we're not going to just rank. We're not going to just want to rank for Black Shoes. We want to understand and see if there are, what kind of topics there are around Black Shoes, and if there are any other terms that we can include within our content that we're going to go and create. So essentially, what we're looking at here. Sorry.
Is this literally just all the keywords that are related to Black Shoes now?
No. So in this section, what we're looking at is Black Shoes as a topic, right? Because obviously, typically what people would do is conduct a keyword research and keyword analysis. But instead, what we do is look at specific topics and understand, the topics that the content team should be writing about, right? So if I just quickly go into our keyword discovery part of the platform, as this loads up, typically, how even PPC people or PPC teams, even SEO teams, what they tend to do is conduct keyword research and understanding, what kind of keywords they can start to bid on or start to rank on. Let's just do Black Shoes quickly as an example. So if I click search, this is typically the traditional way of conducting keyword research on, let's just say for Black Shoes, for example. Now, what we're doing here essentially is typically they would look at Black Shoes, understand what the search volume is. Again, we give you a breakdown of seasonality, of understanding exactly, when it would be best time to capitalize on the spike in traffic, for example. So then if we scroll down, what we can see here is all the search terms related to Black Shoes. So all the clusters around Black Shoes. I'm going to filter this by phrase match because exact match won't have much of a search, won't have a higher search volume as much as phrase match. So what we're going to do is look at it by keywords, and let's look at it by search volume as well. So what the platform does is it looks at different clusters around or related to Black Shoes. So what we can see here essentially is Black Shoes. You can see the search volume, CPC, understanding how competitive it is, whether it's even worth kind of bidding on. We can see the ad budget. It gives you a understanding or just a forecast of knowing when exactly or how exactly competitive a particular search term is and how much money is being spent by advertisers. You can see the search feature, and more importantly, you can see the seasonality as well. So this is typically the analysis that people do when they're conducting a keyword research, right? So you'd come here and try and find different ideas around different keywords. This is great, in my opinion. I like it. I think this is a process that everyone should be doing. But essentially, when we go into the Topic Explorer, you'll understand why I think that's more valuable. It helps with time saving. And it looks at not just keywords, but it looks at topics. So if I can just go back, right? So what I'm looking at here is essentially all the topics clustered by semantics, right? So we're looking at Black Shoes. and we can see all the related topics. Why topics? Because the topics will help the content writers understand, what type of topics they should be talking about, and then within these topics, we will showcase all the keywords that you will necessarily need within your content when creating the new content or editing existing content compared to your competitors. So what we're doing here essentially is highlighting the topics that content teams should be writing about. So we can look at black shoes. So obviously we're editing a women's page, women's shoes page. What we can see here, we want to obviously include this particular topic. Sorry, just to give you an understanding, I know that this just looks like a bunch of bubbles and a lot of lines, but essentially what this means is this is the main topic that we're focusing on. We're showing all the semantics, the related semantics around black shoes topic, and the closer the bubble, the more related it is to the main topic. The bigger the bubble, the more search volume there is around that specific topic. And then the great thing about this particular section is you can kind of get an understanding about the topic details. So if I dive into women's shoes UK, for example, this gives me a great understanding of knowing what the search volume is, right? Knowing how competitive it is, the average CPC. More importantly, the search intent. The search intent helps me understand, not only myself, but helps the content team understand exactly the type of content, the user's intent behind this particular search term, right? So we can see here, this is an informational search term. So people aren't searching for, women's shoes UK and straight away making a transaction, but instead this tends to be an informational piece where people tend to be doing research. So this gives us a good understanding of the type of content we should be creating. And then a seasonality breakdown. And on top of that, we provide you with all the
So you said it on the informational side, Shoby, sorry again. So this is an informational term, and this is how people understand what essentially people are doing when they're searching for women's shoes UK. So because this is an this topic has informational intent, that means when the content creators are actually creating the content, or whoever's creating that landing page or URL, that they shouldn't be putting things like calls to actions in there to try flog a pair of women's shoes to these people when they're searching this term.
Exactly, because that could then lead them to bouncing from the page. So what we're trying to help you understand is what the users are actually looking for. Because if someone isn't trying to buy something and they're purely doing a bit of research, you want to provide them with informational content. So we help you understand exactly what the intent of the user is. So now you're then able to start creating content that is suited based on the user's intent. Okay, and then we give you a breakdown on all the ranking domains, giving you an understanding of exactly who you're competing against for this particular topic. Right, so if I close this, and then, okay, I'm gonna just start picking out some, topics. So ladies, black shoes, if I want, I can then expand further on this topic. So it gives me a greater understanding of knowing, what other topics can I include around ladies, black shoes. And as it loads up, I can see, okay, cool, women footwear. So let's add that as a topic. Ladies, black leather shoes, that might be good. Or ladies, shoes and boots, might be a good topic to include. So as I start adding topic, you can start to see the search volume around each those topics. Now, what's more important, I think what's more useful for the content team is giving you just a little bit more information, not just the semantics and the related topics around the main topic that we're building content around, but understanding what the rankings are, what the seasonality is, gives you a great understanding of when it will be best to talk or create content about specific topics, giving you a breakdown. So we can see there tends to be a large amount of search volume around summertime, so around this time. So this is a good time to start optimizing content or even creating new content. More importantly, we can see how competitive it is. So it gives you a great understanding of what the average CPC is, and a breakdown of search intent. Obviously, when my assumption when I'm looking at black shoes, I would think, or just the topic of black shoes, I would assume that the user intent is to buy a product, right? I buy black shoes or buy just women's shoes in general. But what this allows you to do is help you understand exactly based on the topics that you're selecting, whether they have a transactional intent or whether they have an informational intent or a navigational intent, which we can see here. And it gives you a breakdown as well. And it gives you a breakdown of the search volume for each of these particular intents. So again, this helps us build quality content and also the right content for the traffic or for the users that we are building content for. So we can ensure that we are generating quality traffic, because we don't want just any traffic coming into our website and bouncing. We want traffic that's going to come into the website, navigate around if it's information terms or if it's a transaction, lead to a transaction. Okay, so once we've then selected all the topics for the content team, we can then go to content editor. Oops. Hold on 1 second. I was meant to go next, wasn't I, Devon?
I believe you were, Shoby, but this just goes straight to the content editor. I believe you can go back to edit the brief if you just click the bottom right, and it'll take you through the process again.
Thank you. Right.
It's okay. Once you can just blame it on that shoddy Wi-Fi of yours.
Yeah. So once we selected all the topics, we'll click next. And then we'll go in as the platform starts to gather information. It will start to then pull in all the necessary keywords that we need to include within our content. So what we're doing essentially is showcasing, based on each of these topics, what are the necessary keywords to have. So the must-have keywords, the relevant keywords, and the additional keywords. So you want to understand exactly where we are pulling this data from. And what we can do is, if I click on competitors and the 30 URLs, what I can see for each particular topic, the platform goes ahead and analyzes all the domains or the ranking domains for those specific topics and gives you an understanding of exactly which of those domains are, what the title is, what the position is, and what the word count is. So it gives you an understanding of knowing where we're pulling those must-have, relevant, and additional keywords from. Because based on our competitors' analysis, we can see that these are the necessary keywords that your competitors are talking about and ranking for, so that you need to ensure that you're including this within your content as well. My internet is a little bit slow, hence why these 3 additional topics aren't loading, but for each topic, the platform essentially goes and analyzes 30 ranking domains.
Makes sense. And basically what it's doing now, Shoby, is it's basically just analyzing those domains and pulling the content or the keywords, as it were, that Google deems it necessary in order to rank in those top positions.
Spot on, exactly. Now, I can imagine people are probably watching this and thinking, wait, it's great understanding the keywords and, I probably can do it myself. And yeah, you definitely can. But what we're trying to do is help you understand not only what keywords you need to have, but we're helping you understand how to use those specific keywords in the context you should be writing these or using these particular keywords. So if I start to hover over these keywords, I can then see, based on the competitors that we've analyzed at the top 30 ranking domains, we can see these are how your competitors are using these specific search terms in this specific content. So if I then start hovering over them, I can see exactly in what context these keywords are being used. And this is where it's where the biggest value comes from, because yes, it's great understanding the keyword, but again, as a content writer, I want to know exactly how my competitors are writing about it. And now this is very useful for, let's just say, for example, you have a content team and they're writing out content. You might have a content team that may not be experts in a particular field. Now, what our platform helps you do is essentially gives you the data and the information that you need, and now we're going to help you look or appear as if you are an expert. Because hovering over these keywords, I'm not a content writer, but when I start to hover over these particular keywords, I can see in which context I should be writing this in. So then now I can talk about women's footwear as if I'm an expert within this field, and as a matter of fact, I'm actually not. But this platform will help you seem as if you are. So now you're writing quality and relevant content for your users. Okay, and then what you can do is select and deselect each of these keywords as you wish. And then you go next, and we're going to the next part, and we're pulling in any questions that you may need to include in your content based on the topics that we've analyzed. We can see these tend to be the questions the users are essentially asking. So you can see the hows, the whats, the whos, the whys, and you can see this for each particular topic as well. And if there isn't a particular topic that a question, that you don't see, you can always add the question as well yourself. Okay, again, you can select and deselect as you wish. Click next. We're going to go into the analytics section. Obviously, if you have your analytics integrated in as well, it will be useful to marry the data up. In this instance, I'm going to skip this since we don't have the analytics data. Now we're going to go into building this content brief. So what this means is essentially I've done the research for my content writer. I've ensured I've done all the analysis I need. I've now collected the topics. I've highlighted all the necessary keywords a content writer needs to include when creating the content, include the questions, and now we're setting a score. So the target score is around 75%. This is just to ensure that you're not overly crowding the page with so much content. You want an easy, readable page for your users. And then the word count is already set at what the competitor's average keyword count is, but you can amend this as you wish, and then you can start to set the content brief for your content team. So brief in progress. I'm going to give this to my colleague, and you can set a particular date, and then you can write in whatever comment you choose. You can add in labels as you wish as well, if there's any particular topics you want to add. But in this instance, what I'm going to do is go directly to the content editor. So this is essentially what the content manager will do: set up the content brief or the conditions that the content team needs to adhere to in order to create the content. And what we're doing now is, you can see we're going directly into the content editor. So we can see all the necessary conditions that the content writer now needs to meet in order to create the right and relevant and quality content. So if I now start typing, mind you, I am not a content writer, so please don't judge me on my writing skills. So let's just start women's. Page is for women's shoes, and okay. So as I start typing, what I should start to see, and what we will start to see, is essentially the platform will start to go to work and start ticking off each of these must-have keywords, even recommended keywords, and then it will start to give a quality score based on the current content that you started to write. Gives you a word count based on the target you're trying to achieve. If there's any sentence structure, for example, if the content or if the sentences or the content writer is writing, it isn't in a good structure, or if it's not good, if it isn't great to read, or if the writing is terrible, we'll give you a score for it. The keyword coverage, and then any repetitions, and also a readability score. On top of that, we provide you with any duplicate checks as well that your content writer may have done.
That's awesome. So but now, what if we wanted to update an existing piece of content? What, do we need to have that on sort of a Word file and just pop it in a Word, or how are we going to do that?
I will show you exactly how. So whoops. Let me choose view. I'm just going to choose an existing page. Thank you for pointing that out, Devon. So what we're going to do is women's footwear. So let's select this page. As it loads up, what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to take this page. Right, I'm just going to wait for it to load up and make sure there aren't any cookies I need to accept. Sorry, my internet, I'm with Virgin Media, so it's not helping at all. I've just had constant issues with them. I'm just hoping to get my money back. But okay, cool. So as the page is loaded up, what I'll do is highlight or select the page, copy, going back into my content editor, and what I'm going to do is paste this particular page. So what we're doing now is essentially is based on all the conditions that we've set for the content team, we can then go ahead and paste an existing page within our content editor. And what it will now do, based on all the conditions that we've actually set, you will begin to see how a particular page is performing based on that particular conditions that's been set. So this is actually great understanding to know whether your existing pages are up to scratch or is going to be performing well when compared to when marrying this up against all the conditions that where we conducted our research. So what we can then start to do, right? The great thing about this part of the platform, and I think this is one of my favorites, is the fact that platform will allow you to keep the same formatting, same layout, and what you can then do is go ahead and start typing or editing and optimizing your existing page. So I can type in women's, and what should happen now is you start to see that typed up. Cool. So you can start to see women's shoes. So then you can start to see all these necessary conditions starting to be ticked off. So quite quickly and easily, as a content writer, you'll be able to edit and optimize existing pages as well. So it saves you from the hassle of having to format it yourself. We essentially keep all the formatting of the page, allowing you to just go ahead and start editing and optimizing the specific pages. So if you see that there's particular conditions that haven't been met, you can then start typing women's, let's just say women's leather shoes. And as you can see, as I start typing, the conditions all will be met and will be ticked off. And you can see here how a platform is going to work in updating the existing topic. And you can see, so as I've typed leather should be ticked off, and you'll be able to see your content score improving. You can also see the top competitors duplicate check, just ensuring that you're not copying any of your competitors, because obviously you don't want any plagiarism there.
What I think is great about that is that you actually copied this from Boohoo, and it actually picked up the exact URL that you copied. So exactly. We know that works.
Exactly. So that's exactly. So that's very helpful. And again, you can see what the content score looks like. You can see the word count, sentence structures. Again, all of these conditions are I mean, this looks like, for a content writer, oh my God, there's so much more pressure to ensure that you're actually achieving each of these conditions. But as a matter of fact, it's actually helping your life a lot, helping your work life a lot easier, simply by giving you the necessary information that you need to create the right content based on the analysis the SEO team would have conducted. So typically, this is what the typical process would be. The SEO team will conduct a content gap analysis, finding opportunities, analyzing your existing pages, knowing where you are, where you need to be, comparing against your benchmarks, your competitors. And then once you found the opportunities, then you'll go ahead and start creating a particular piece to improve an existing page, or maybe starting new content based on the analysis that's been conducted. Now, this particular section helps the content writers write their content. And the great thing about this as well is you can enter your headline and then the meta title and description as well. And then again, you can even go back to your competitors' information to understand and see exactly what their titles look like. So it gives you an idea, the content writers an idea. So even if you are an expert within this particular field, now with the platform we provide you with, you'll be able to see in this section exactly how.
Yeah, and I believe that meta title and description are actually ranking factors as well. So that's reasons we actually put that into this part of the platform, because they are ranking factors and they do need to be taken into consideration when putting up new pieces or updating existing pieces of content.
Exactly, spot on. And also, just to add to that, the great thing about this is you can, for example, you can convert this to HTML format, which you can then pass on to your dev team directly. So saving you a whole lot of time in this instance. And the great thing about this as well, for example, as a content manager, if you don't know how your content writer has been performing, what you can then do is go and see the saved changes to understand exactly the work that's been done. I know this seems like a bit like Big Brother, but content writers, that is not the case. It's just more so even helps you to know, what changes you've actually made.
I'd just like to thank you, Shobs, for running us through all of that. I believe we are sort of towards the end now. I just want to thank you because you literally ran us through the entire process, identifying a problem, where we can make improvements, and then how to get that content piece up and out. Obviously, thanks for running us through the entire process. Very, very helpful, very useful. To everyone that is watching, those of you who are existing clients, if you'd like to run through this again, or for anyone to run your content team through this again, so sort of to teach in the workflow, please feel free to reach out to your dedicated CSM. To those of you who are not a customer of Searchmetrics yet, feel free to reach out to us and we'll give you access to the platform and run your content team through the process, and sort of show them how to create the content themselves or go through the process themselves. We'll also allow them to create up to 5 briefs. All you need to do is reach out. And Shoby, thank you so much once again. Really, really super helpful. And I'm sure we'll be doing tons more of these in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Devon. And thank you for everyone joining. And hope you have seen the value in the process that I've shown you using our Searchmetrics platform.
Thanks, bud. Chat to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.